For the Real News Network, I'm Angel Elliott. I'm here in East Baltimore at the Southern Baptist Church with Pastor Donte Hickman, where the senior center that you see beside me was burnt down last night. The latest, the fire was ruled an arson by Baltimore police. I talked to Pastor Hickman about his positivity in the situation and how this fire won't deter the church from revitalizing this East Baltimore community.
I'm feeling more resilient than ever. The fire last night to me was not merely a fire, it was actually a light that was shining on a community that has lacked so much in investment for decades, and now it's getting the attention that it needs and deserves. This is beyond this building. This is about all of the projects of affordable housing that we're trying to do in East Baltimore and the youth center so that we can mitigate against the injustices and the unemployment and the lack of access that our people have.
Baltimore hasn't seen anything like this since 1968. When you heard that the senior center was on fire, what were your immediate thoughts?
When Johns Hopkins was displacing people for their development, the church stood up and said, we're going to have a plan and a vision for the community. We're going to work to make sure everybody gets to stay in the community that they were born and raised in. And so it had to have been somebody who was insensitive to the church's efforts and how we've worked to partner with this community for redevelopment.
But a lot of what the mainstream media isn't talking about is the systemic poverty and degradation and lack of education that Baltimore residents are facing. I'm a Baltimore resident myself. Talk to me about how Baltimore residents are pretty much fed up. Of course, it's not an excuse for rioting. It's not an excuse for looting. But, you know, it is a cause.
I've seen this all my life. I'm born and raised in Edmondson Village to a single parented home. I was in the drug-infested communities. I felt the pain. I saw it from the other side. And I don't cast judgment. I don't cast blame. I knew what it was like to have to overcome myself. The people in Baltimore are not what they're being portrayed to be on the media. They're showing war zones and they're showing children and people looting out of a sense of frustration and poverty. But this is a people that has largely been unheard for years. People who have not, our recreation centers have been taken away from us. We see condominiums being built that around the inner harbor, but we are left with boarded up homes and rat-infested neighborhoods. We are left with lead paint in the fountains. We're left with schools that are in deplorable and dilapidated condition. No air in the summer and hardly any heat in the winter. No good drinking water. Somebody has to stand up for this. And I believe the injustice that took place with Freddie Gray sheds a light, not just on what happened to him, but what needs to happen for the other Freddie Grays that continue to live in our communities.
For the Real News Network, I'm Angel Elliott.